share how a mentorship student got a $24,000 contract for bookkeeping, cleanup, and monthly services. Um, so it is just to kind of break down the numbers, a 24-month cleanup and then $1,000 per month. And the monthly contract is like for 12 months. So super, super excited to be able to share this. So the biggest thing is I know that when I was starting my bookkeeping business, like there was no way that I would have ever thought someone would pay me like $23,000 um in a year for whether it was cleanup, whether it was monthly service. Like I just didn't think that was a thing, right? I was like, when I get started, if I just get a number of clients to pay me like, here's my thought process. I thought that if I had recurring revenue, right? If I could just get one payment every single day of the month. So let's say that it's like we'll say $100 per client per month. And I get 30 clients, I make money every single day of the month. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that'd be great. I'd make like 3 grand a month. And I know that was kind of weird at the time, but it was just like I just didn't really have any good expectations when it came to bookkeeping because it was like when I first got started, I was like, I'm gonna be a millionaire overnight. Like everyone's gonna want my service. No one knows what cloud-based bookkeeping is. No one knows what this stuff is. I'm like the first person to do it, and I was so excited. And then after about 2 3 months of like, okay, this is so hard to sell. No one wants to pay me more than like $300 a month. Like if I just go and like get a high number of clients who want to pay me a little bit of money, I'll be able to make it and I'll be able to actually go. And before we go any further, just to kind of get the engagement up a little bit higher, if you're watching this thing live, right, hashtag team live. So I know you're here. I'll make it a little bit more interactive. I will answer some questions. I'll even like make it a little bit more fun for the people watching. If you're watching this thing on the replay, type in hashtag team replay and I will leave you guys some goodies as well. If I'm not able to answer any questions that you might have during this stream for whatever reason, write down like hashtag connect. And I'll be sure to like reach out to you afterwards, see if I can answer any questions you might have. And finally, if you want some help growing your business and avoiding a lot of the mistakes that cause most people to fail, you can click on the link inside of the description, either above or below the video, depending on where you're watching it, to book a call with me to see if I can help you out. And just jumping into this thing. So number one is mindset, right? So the hardest part is that you have to understand that for also if you want the notes that I'm actually getting this document on, I have like a really deep note, probably like 3 or 4 pages long. Go ahead and write down hashtag document, and I will actually send this thing to you. I see someone who typed in hashtag team live, so good to see you while we're on. It says Facebook user because you have to give Restream permission to show your name, but really grateful that you're here all the same. So coming back into this thing, so number one is okay, I have to catch my spot in the notes. Yeah, I didn't really I lost a lot of confidence in myself in the beginning because it was very hard for me to get it. Like my sales skills were not very good. I didn't really know how to look at someone's books and be able to price it out. And then nowadays inside of the program, like we have students who are getting like really large sized clients, or maybe if they underpriced their clients in the past, we have ways they can like cross sell, upsell, and even raise their existing pricing on the package they might have undersold in the past, right? And for some people, it means that some of the clients that they go after like just need more bookkeeping. For others, it's about like really showing people like when and how to provide more value for new and existing clients so you can get your clients to pay between. I like for the clients on average pay between 15,000 about $50,000 per client. So that just means like some people might not be a good fit for your monthly bookkeeping service to pay you 5 grand a month. That doesn't mean that they can't do QuickBooks training. That doesn't mean that you can't give them a cleanup. That doesn't mean that you can't do bookkeeping service. I mean you can't keep adding more and more services and adding more and more value to them to get how much they're going to be paying you increased over time. Now, that is more of an advanced concept. If you're just trying to get your first couple clients, I would really just focus on, trying to get clients between $500 to $5,000 per month. For most people, if you get, about 3 to about 4 clients who are paying you about 2 grand, 3 grand a month, you're going to be able to go and hit, the coveted 10K per month internet number very, very quickly. Right. And that's going to give you a lot more freedom to be able to kind of call the shots, choose your clients, and be able to start building your business the way you want it from there. So when you do it like that, right, when every client can pay between about 15,000 to about $50,000, right, you don't really have to feel like you're constantly asking for business, constantly begging for business, right? A lot of the times what happens is like when someone's not really willing to pay you, you feel like you have to go get a bunch of clients. And the more clients you feel like you have to get, the more that you feel like every single person that comes on your consultation call, you have to try and close them. You have to try and get them to like want to work with you. And that's a really tough place to be in, especially because like some clients just are not really worth your time. They're not really worth the effort that it takes to, number one, get them, number two, follow up with them, number three, basically have an argument on the call where it's like why they should pay you more money. Like it's just not worth it, right? But once you start learning how to get those larger dollar fees, you can actually turn people away and be like, hey, I understand that, it might be a stretch for you mentally, but, this is kind of the rates that we charge in our firm. And, if it's not quite the right fit, that's a-okay. Like you can lean back, right? So you don't feel like you're constantly begging people to work with you, right? Because that's no fun. It's no fun because number one, if you do get those clients, yeah, you got the sale and you feel more confident, but working with them for 6 months, a year, side by side. They're like calling you, they're texting you. They don't respect the stuff that you give them. They always say that what you're doing is wrong. Like that's just no fun. So it's more about like learning how, if you can start getting the right clients, if you know how to actually go and build a service offering, or even not just your package, right? Because the package is on like one service, but really have your customer have like an ecosystem of different services that a person can use at different stages inside their business, at different stage of working with you. It makes it so much easier because now you can just focus on working with maybe like 5, 6, 7, 8 clients over the next 5 to 10 years, and just provide them as much service as you possibly can, build up those great relationships, and then you can really have a lot more time to like spend with your family. Because yeah, it's so much easier when you do business that way. So the first step is really to understand like the way that we see money is not really how other people see money. So I was having a conversation with a mentor student the other day, right? And they're like, I don't understand why someone would pay me, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month when they could just go get someone in house, right? And the reason why someone might do something might not make sense to you, but that does not necessarily mean that it's not a real thing, right? There are companies that are willing to pay an outside contractor, 10,000, 12,000, 13, $15,000 per month. We have students in our program doing that. I give people generally a range between 500 to 5,000 a month because it's just the average person who's never sold something that high ticket sometimes can get kind of nervous when you get past 5 grand a month. But yeah, we do have students who have really, really large packages, right? But when it comes to that, just because you probably wouldn't be able to pay someone that does not mean that someone would not pay you like 4 grand a month for, either consulting services or for CFO services or for even bookkeeping, right? So you just have to kind of take that step back. And the less you know about the actual like business owners who you're trying to actually get to work with you, the harder it's going to be for you to understand why they would actually want to work with you. So one thing that you always have to start learning how to do, and one thing that really helped me out, was to start learning how to either talk to the business owners, having conversations with very successful business owners to actually see what is life like as a business owner that's very successful. How do they make decisions? How do they think? How do they see the world? How do they view investments, right? Because once you can do that, you're able to have better consultation calls with them because you understand what it actually means to live in their world. Sometimes there's an old saying that says like before you can judge someone, before you can like really judge someone, in this case before you can sell someone, you really need to walk a mile in their shoes and understand exactly how do they view the world and how do they see the world, because that makes it so much easier for us to be able to go. Now once you're able to do that, right, our job is to be able to assess the dollar equivalent to the reasons, the value, and the purpose for why someone wants to work with us, and then put a dollar equivalent to it, right? So inside the program, like if you don't know how to go and like look at someone's books and like how to guesstimate the price point, we give all of our students like actual pricing calculation tools, so you know exactly how much someone should be charged for bookkeeping, for monthly services, and for different services like that. So there's no guesstimation. You always make sure you're charging the right price point. So you never have to feel like you're either undercharging, overcharging, whatever the case might be. You're always right in that sweet spot, right in that target. And oftentimes, what we're looking for, right, is companies that are doing between about $500,000 per year to about $3.5 million. And these are the ones that are like the best targets for high-paying bookkeeping clients. Just what I found, right? Sometimes when they get a lot bigger, I mean, it can turn like into a corporate job, right? So for me, I wanted to be able to work with companies where I could have really good direct conversations with the owners. I could network a really good amount. I didn't feel like I was working another corporate job, and it was a lot smoother. So that's kind of the sweet spot I found. Your sweet spot might be a little bit bigger. Maybe you like working with companies like 10 million to about $20 million per year, right? It all is just personal preference, and really like who do you understand, who do you like working with the most. Now, again, once you start knowing your pricing, you can be a little bit more selective. You don't feel like you have to take on every single person, right? But up until then, just try and adopt those behaviors. Now, one thing is that a lot of times, like they might say, well, I don't know why business owners actually pay me more than $1,000 per month, right? Now, that's because oftentimes we don't really understand. Business owners who try to save every single penny tend not to grow, right? And they end up, out of business in about 1 to 3 years. Like there is a statistic that most business models, right? That's like what's construction company, solar company, a therapist, like most businesses are out of business within about 1 to 3 years, right? Now, professional service is a little bit different, right? So accounting, law, um, financial advisors is kind of tough, but like for these kind of services where it's every single person can utilize the service and it's really about a skill set, and once you get the clients you can just keep flowing, our success rate and our ability to stay inside of the industry is a lot better than like a company, like if you're trying to open like a retail store, right? Because for the retail store, there's a lot more moving pieces, a lot more overhead, you have to hire staff, it's just way more hectic, right? But most successful business owners, no matter what industry you are in, generally understand that if they're going to grow, they need to be investing. So now our job is to just make sure that we can find those people, connect with them, give them a really good dollar equivalent to the value that we're giving them, build that relationship, and then make sure that we can actually start working with them. Now, ideally, who can afford to pay us that? Ideally, the companies closely have to watch the cash flow they have, right? So, for example, e-commerce companies, really, really easy example, right? Especially if they're more that like about 500K to about $1 million per year. It's very, very, very easy for a lot of them if they're not very good with their cash flows, with their financials, or they don't really have an eye on the prize. Only thing about marketing, it's very easy for them to go into the negative. If they go into the negative for too long, they're going to go out of business. Another company is that they need to utilize your info to see trends and make forecasts, right? So if a company does not really do that, they're not really looking for trends or forecasts, they're not going to pay you as much. Like they just don't really have as big of a need, right? That's why sometimes like if a company is too small, like if they're at like 30,000 a year, 50,000, maybe even $100,000 per year, it's hard for you to like really charge the price you need to for the service because they just don't really they can't really utilize the service to the fullest capacity. And even if they can use it, it's just they more than likely are not going to, right? Like you're not going to have that many like solo photographers looking at trends and forecasts for the industry when they're like at $70,000 a year. Like they're just trying to survive and pay their bills, right? So once they start getting out of that survival mode, they start more into like coast or more into like a little bit more of a mature business, not like full business maturity, more like the business adolescent, where they're not really just an infant, right? That's when it's a lot easier for them to understand and start taking a step back and looking at their numbers to kind of guide future progress. Now, next, again, they have to be out of that new business mindset. Again, when they're in new business survival mode, it's like they're trying to save every single penny. It's not good. They also do not like some people like mom and pops. I mean, mom and pops are good, but if you're trying to charge like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, mom and pops can be a little bit challenging because oftentimes they want to maintain, they want to have just a really simple lifestyle. They don't really want to grow, right? So it can be hard for you to go and get them to want to pay you a higher amount of money. Next thing is if they want to go and get like loans or the next round of investment, those are generally really good because they need to have clean financials in order to do that, right? So they might have been in business for a little while, but in order for them to get like a loan for like another apartment complex or for equipment, they have to have clean books. So they're looking for help and they're willing to pay for it because they can always go and get extra money to pay for your service, right? So it's just a lot easier. Another thing is they already have to have contractors. So generally, if you're charging someone about $3,000 per month, you want to be on the lower end of all their contractors. Now, this comes across kind of mean sometimes when you say like, yeah, you're charging $3,000 a month, but I mean some of these companies, right? Like they're paying their employees, they're paying the contractors more money. So it's okay because we're doing it on a part-time basis and we're not really trying to go and work 40, 50 hours per week for that particular client. But that's a good thing, right? We don't want them to have sticker shock when we say, hey, our price is $4,000 a month. It just wants to be like, okay, cool, right? Very logical decision that they're trying to get someplace. They understand the value, understand that if they were to go and get our help and they were to actually utilize our service, how much further could they grow? How much better and easier would it be for them and for their business? Now, even moving forward, because that's the mindset, that's who we're looking for, it's how we're targeting, right? Now, how did our student Millie actually go and get this client? So she specifically used LinkedIn for this $24,000 client. So number one, when it comes to LinkedIn, it's really learning how to identify. So your ability to really find the right clients, and it's not always just like who's looking for a bookkeeper. It's more about understanding who is worthy of our time to go and start building a relationship with. The better you start getting at that, the less people you have to go and build relationships with, because then you can get the ball rolling and to snowball from there. Because birds of a feather flock together. Sometimes what happens is like, and this is not all the time, but a lot of cases what happens is you might start getting some referrals from like, maybe you got one client that's like $200 a month. They start referring all their friends. And then for some reason, none of them want to pay you more than about 500, maybe even 750 a month. The reason why is because birds of feather flock together. So they're oftentimes going to be businesses around the same size, similar industries, similar things about it, right? And oftentimes, like maybe they might have asked your client how much how much the client was paying you. So when you try and do a higher price one, like, well, so and so got this, right? And it makes it very hard for you to be able to do it. Because yeah, I understand. Like it's like when we try and tell them in a lot of cases that yeah, I'm charging this person X, but you have to do Y because your business is totally different. Like they don't really understand that. I mean, like you know what I mean? Like we understand that as accountants and bookkeepers, but they don't really understand and see that value. So if you can get the right people on the phone first and you can start charging those people the right amount of money, when you start getting those referrals, it's a lot easier of a conversation. They're already willing to pay you more, and it's not that much different than what they're paying everyone else. So it's a lot easier for you, but you have to be able to get inside that circle first. So identifying who is the person you're going after is most important. The next thing is connecting. Now, connecting is really about finding common ground. So it's like knowledge on the niche. It's like, what do you have experience inside of their business? So, for example, let's say that you're going after let's say there is a property management company and slash or there could be like a real estate investment company. Do you have experience with real estate, right? You can use that as the conversation starter and the in needed to kind of get your foot in the door to have that conversation, build a mutual connection, and get the person to be open to actually working with you. Another thing is past alumni associations, churches, dance organizations, anything that you have mutual connections with the person. You can see those mutual connections and you can leverage them to have that conversation. Because again, it's just about getting them to respond to you, getting them to be in conversation with you. Because if they will not respond to you, if they will not engage with you, it's very hard for you to be able to go and get them to want to work with you. So first step is making sure we can build that connection. Oftentimes for me, I like connecting based on like projects the person is working on, right? So for example, let's say I'm talking to like a construction company. One question I like to ask, like what projects are keeping you busy right now, right? And oftentimes, like for example, I was speaking to a roofer, right? And the person actually showed me some of the roofs they were working on. So they showed the roof, like he was standing on the roof, took a picture, sent it to me on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But I got the reply. We were able to start talking from there. It's very simple, right? But it came from me understanding, like, okay, so what are the different things they have going on? What are they more likely to like talking about, right? It's going to change from industry to industry. That's why for some people, you know, niching down can be a good thing. It's not that you have to niche down or to like start getting clients, but it can be easier if you like having more consistency in like your conversations, the problems that they're facing, just the people you're speaking to, right? So I like to choose about 3 to 4 niches that I like going with specifically, and I just get really good within those niches, and then it just makes it easier. So I have a little bit of consistency because I have the same conversations, but it doesn't get mundane and get boring because it is different within like certain industries, like a range of industries. It just makes things a lot easier. And then also after that, you need to be able to qualify. Okay, so I'm always looking for companies that are willing and able. Capital A, capital N, capital D. Willing and able. Okay, because there needs to be both. It needs to be both. If a company's willing but they're unable because they just don't have the budget or just a bad time, I mean that's not that great. I don't really want to have a consultation call with that person at that time, right? If the person is able but unwilling, that's no fun either because then they try and lowball you. And then if you do get that contract that's a lowball, I mean, we are dealing intimately with the person's books. We know how much money they're making. And oftentimes what happens is you get your foot in the door, you feel like you were either bullied, the thing was misrepresented, you feel lied to, and the relationship is already off to a bad start. So over time, you start resenting the people because they weren't willing to pay you what you wanted. And you even start getting upset with yourself that you caved in and that you were actually, willing to work for less than what you should be. After that is going to be about the consultation sales call. So the consultation sales call, especially for this, is very important. So we have a structure that we like to utilize within the consultation call to really start getting an understanding of the business owners, not just their problems from like a very logical perspective, but also them as a person, as an individual, right? Because if you can really build that connection as an individual, you notice like the more I'm talking in this conversation, right? It's all about relationship. The deeper we get inside of a relationship with business owners that have money and are willing and able to work with us, it's easier for us to be able to go and get these higher prices, okay? Because it's like you don't want to have your consultation call or the reason why someone signs up with you because you're just like you do more for less. Like you don't want to do more work for less money. Like that can work, right? But it's just like that's not really the type of business that I wanted to run, right? So instead, I learned how to build a deeper relationship because then if I know the deepness of the relationship, I can find out what are the most valuable things for that person, and I can then talk about positioning my service when I'm having the consultation call to talk about like what are the main pain points they have and how much value can actually bring for those pain points. And it makes things a lot easier. The relationship is better. You don't have to feel like you're selling, right? It's just a conversation. You're just talking. It's much more relaxed. It's much more laid back. Now, the next thing is follow up, right? So on this particular client, the follow up took about 4 months to land it. Now, there's a couple different ways when it comes to the follow up, right? So there's like a good way and a bad way. A good way is like the person really wants to say yes and they mean it. It's not just yes, but it's yes and they mean it, right? Because sometimes prospects might say yes, but it's really a no or like a maybe, and they just didn't want to be rude to you. They didn't want to like stuff any like alarms, right? So if it's a yes plus they meant it, then and but they just get like busy, right? Sometimes like business owners, especially really successful ones, they just get busy over time. And it's like they want to work with you from day number one, but it's just like something comes up, like they break their arm, they go on vacation, it's children's graduation, whatever the case might be. And if you don't really understand how to really do that, then it's or how to follow up correctly, it can come across like you feel like they lied to you, right? Now, on the other hand, there are some people where it's like, do they just politely say no, right? So maybe they say yes, but it's really a no. They still want to hurt your feelings. They don't want to make like cause any confrontation or like a struggle, right? And maybe you just didn't know the difference. So the first thing, and the hardest part about consultation calls and getting clients is knowing what the person says and if what they say was actually true or if it was just a smokescreen, right? So which one of those two? Was it a yes, but they just got busy, or life happened, or was it really a no, and it's just they were just trying to let you off? The better you can get at understanding that, the easier your life is going to be as both a business owner and as an accountant and as a salesperson, right? Because if you don't know that, you constantly feel like the like people are lying to you. You feel very uneasy, and it's just like it's very hard to really trust yourself, right? And then business becomes no fun because you feel like you can't get clients, or you feel like you have no control over if you get clients or if you don't. It just feels like you kind of get lucky, and that's no fun because it's very very hard to run a business on luck. And if you were to like lose your clients for whatever reason, like how some people did in like 2020, right? You won't have the skill to build it back up very quickly. So you have to learn these different processes to understand it, right? That's one thing, like we do work inside of our mentorship program, like very specifically on consultation calls. Because if you can just sign up clients at the higher price points and less consultation calls with less follow-up, you don't have to do as much work. So you can get to focusing on accounting and bookkeeping work as quickly as possible, right? And that's really the goal. That's really why most people start the business, because they like the work, they like the industry. It's just maybe they just don't like the vehicle they're currently in. Like maybe they just don't like a job. Maybe they just don't like, the current boss. Maybe they don't like the company they work for, right? So the better you can get at sales, the better, more organized you can get at sales and just really understand this stuff in a very short period of time, the easier it's going to be for you to run your business. Now, we can go a little bit deeper. I'm kind of getting a little bit closer over time because generally, like on whether it's Facebook or YouTube, the platforms kind of penalize you if you go over a certain amount of time when you're on a live video. So I don't want to go too far over that because I can prevent it from being seen by a lot more people. So one thing you can do is if you do know the person is a yes, but they're just busy, is really having a lot of fodder. So having like white papers, having presentations, maybe you spoke at a local event, maybe you had just really anything that shows you're in demand and shows that you know what you're talking about. One thing that Millie was doing was every single month she would actually give him like different tips just based on the inbox, like, hey, these are different things based on your industry that you could be doing to really get a handle on things. And it wasn't just accounting and bookkeeping. It was like how to do better bids. It was, what should they be looking for, how to hire contractors, how to hire employees, how to do payroll, when should they get a bookkeeper. It's like just more stuff about them as a person based on what she learns out of the consultation call. I think she was even like sending stuff like, I think she sent like a $25 gift card to the person, because she knew that like the person's favorite restaurant was XYZ. I don't remember exactly what the restaurant was, but I just remember there's a gift card, right? But it's just really having a structured process. And we can help you make your process, because everyone's process needs to be different based on who you're targeting, where they came from, how you contacted them, how you had the consultation go, were they yes or were they maybe, right? And then once you know how to do that, it's very structured. And then a lot of the people that say maybe no or not right now, they come back within about 3 weeks to about 6 months. The longest I've had to follow up with somebody, I've had a couple people I had to follow up with about 2 years before they actually wanted to get started, right? So it's just the longer you can do that without getting irritated, and the less you need someone to want to work with you, the better it is for you short term and long term. So maybe you've been trying to do some of the stuff we've been talking about today on your own, but it's just not quite working. Or maybe you're thinking about getting started in your business, but you just don't want to make all the mistakes most people make, right? Either way, whether it's you want to start or whether you want to grow. I generally can help you out. I cannot help out everybody. That's, there are certain people who it's just not quite a good fit, whether it's personality, whether it's, I don't know if our methodology is going to work the best for you. But if I do think that you can, then I generally will give you an offer. I generally will walk you through the process of it. So if you want to see if we can help you inside of our mentorship program, go ahead and click on the link either above or below the video to book a call with me and see if I can help you out. Again, this is not for everybody. This is for individuals that are extremely serious, want help, and want to go and reach their goal in the most certain methodology, right? We have a really proven process. I want to see if it'll work for you. I don't know if it'll work for everybody, but I want to see if it'll work for you. If that's something you want to do, go ahead and click on the link either above or below the video. I'll see you inside of the call. Hopefully, have a great rest of your day. If you're not quite ready, I'll see you inside the next video.